This is part 1, the back. Today's tutorial video is a 5-part series. We're working on the Bernat Easygoing Knit Pullover. This is a needle knit pattern by yarnspirations.com. Thank you so much to Yarnspirations. It is a drop shoulder with a cowl neck or collar, and we're going to be working on that today. This is part 1 of our 5-part series. Welcome to GoodKnitKisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. The Easygoing Knit sweater actually works from the bottom up, so this is a twisted rib here, and you work the back of the sweater first and then the front. Then you go up to the neck and shape it, and then come back to finish and put this beautiful cowl neck on it. And so we're going to show you how to do that. To make this pattern, let's go over some of the supplies you need and the basics of the pattern so you can pick the size that you need. First, you want to get the pattern. Click on the link down in the description below. It will take you to our blog, and we have a few extra notes because there is one minor problem in the pattern which they have not updated as of this recording, and then it's just a little change for you, but download the entire pattern from them, so we'll have the link on our website. And let's go over some of the information here. Now, first I want you to know that it has multiple sizes. We've got 6 sizes here, and they all have different colors, so that when you move over here, you can see the sizes in the coordinating color. So you've got your fit bust measurement and your finished bust measurement that you can measure on you or whoever you're making it for, but also further in the pattern when they start showing different stitch counts, you'll match it up with that color. Now, I suggest printing one out. A lot of people will print one out. If you don't have a color printer, it's great to circle the size that you're going to work on, and then circle that throughout the pattern wherever you need to make changes according to your size. So if you want to, you can color it in with the right color or a highlighter as well. I'll be referring to both of these throughout, so you may see me pick up the paper pattern, but know that it does have color on it. All right, let's go over the sizes very quickly. You can see them over here, the extra small to all the way to 4 or 5XL goes from 28 inches to a 62-inch bust, so make those according to what you need. As far as yarn goes, you're going to need this many balls for your size. So we're going to be working with a Bernat Roving, which is a number 5 yarn. This is color Clover, and the ball size is a 3.5 ounce 100-gram ball, which is 120 yards or 109 millimeters. The sizes are extra small, small. You need 8 balls. I'm actually going to work on size small, so that's the one I'm going to work on camera. Then the medium is 9 balls, the large is 10, the extra large is 11, the 2 or 3XL is 13, and the 4 or 5XL is 15. You're going to need US 10.5 or 6.5 millimeter knitting needles, or the size to obtain the gauge. Okay, so I'm using my interchangeable needles here for circulars, and you can use straights, except it's just going to get really crowded and heavy, so I recommend circulars. These are interchangeables, 2 stitch holders, and you will be holding on to a few stitches later on into the project, so that's important. I also have several stitch markers here. You need one to mark maybe the right side, but you also can use the stitch markers for other parts of the pattern. You'll see why later on. So I recommend having quite a few on hand to help mark some increases, and I'll show you all about that later. So grab your pattern and let's begin. In part 1, we're going to be covering not only the front of this sweater and the decreases that you need specifically after the armhole and things like that, but also the basics. So if you need to come back to this one for reference for the bottom ribbing or the main stitch pattern, that will be in this video here. So know that this is the main point for that. Be sure and click down in the video link below, and you'll be able to see all 5 parts after they are all released. And that way you can just jump to the section that you need the most help in. Okay, so let's talk about the pattern. It is an easy skill level, and we'll cover these abbreviations when we come to them, but mainly if you know how to knit and purl, you can work some of these stitches like the knit one below. It's really simple. If you have knit through the back loop before, then this pattern is going to be easier for you. There is one that takes a little bit more effort to do, and that is going to be the purl through the back loop. And also we're going to have some increases and decreases on stitches, and they're not specifically saying which kind of increase or decrease, so you can use some that are more comfortable for you, but we'll cover all of those at the time that they're needed. The gauge is going to be in the stitch pattern. The main stitch pattern you'll see here is 12 stitches and 16 rows, and that gets you 4 inches. And you're mainly going to need to worry about the gauge in width. So that's how many stitches across that you're getting. The bust size, we talked about that earlier. This is fit, like when you're measuring right around just to fit. And then this is what it'll end up being once it's looser. Okay, so you want to match it to your sizes as you are fit, and then if you want to make it a little bit bigger, you can, but we're just going to cover exactly what is written here. If you need anything else with the pattern, be sure and reach out to the design team at yarnspirations.com. The instructions are written for the smallest size. If changes are necessary for smaller sizes, then the instructions are written just like this with the parentheses, and then they're in order of the size, except for one spot that I'll show you much later on when we're working on the sleeves. Numbers for each size are shown in the same color throughout the pattern, and when only one number is listed, given in black, it applies to all the sizes. Okay, let's go to the next page, and this is where we're going to start working. We're going to start by casting on for our size. So I'm working on the smallest one, so I'm going to cast on 63. If you are working on the medium, okay, so small is 63, the medium is going to be 67, the large is 73, the extra large is 79, the 2X or 3X is 91, and the 4 or 5X is 97 stitches. It does not specify a cast on. I'm going to show you the long tail cast on, and let's begin. With any roving weight yarn, I suggest pulling the ball band off and using this, pulling from the outside so that you're not getting too much friction pulling the yarn from the inside. It keeps it from having as many knots and also rubbing the yarn too much. You can also use another number 5 weight yarn that's maybe not a roving, and it's an acrylic or another type of man-made fiber as well, so it's not going to felt up on you if it's rubbed too much. I do love this yarn. I think it looks great in the sweater. I just wanted to give you that extra little tip. So you want to set this aside in a bowl or something you can pull from easily and not tug, and let's begin our cast on. So as with any long tail cast on, you want to measure out 3 times your width on your project, and then you're going to put a slip knot in, just however you like to do your slip knot. Okay, so I just round mine around my finger twice, pull the back loop over the front, back loop over the front again, and make a slip knot, and then we place it on our needle. You can also wrap this around your needle however many times you're going to be casting on, and then pull it off, place a slip knot there, and then begin your cast on. And those are 2 different ways to know how long your tail needs to be. Let's go ahead and slip this slip knot on. Tighten that up a little bit. Make sure it's not so loose that it'll fall off, but not too tight that you can't get a needle in. You're going to put the tail part towards you and the ball part to the back. So tail toward, ball to back. Grab them in your opposite hand, and we're going to split it with our finger and our thumb. And I have slower tutorials on this if you need something down in the links below. You're going to pull back like a slingshot, take your needle and scoop up at the thumb, go around and go down at the finger, and then down through the thumb again, let go with the thumb, and go ahead and put your finger on that loop there and pull it snug but not too tight. And that's how I get a consistent stitch across, especially because it's a wearable. You want to have a nice consistent cuff, okay? Have the edges look really nice. This is the bottom edge of your sweater. So go ahead and pull back, go up with the thumb, down at the finger, down through the thumb, let it go. And looks like our stitches are nice and consistent. Do it again. Up at the thumb, down at the finger, down at the thumb, let it go. Okay, see how that looks really nice? So you're going to continue casting on all of your stitches for your size. So for the back, you're going to cast on 63 for small, 67 for large, 73, 79, 91, or 97 for your sizes. Pause your video and I'll see you in a minute. Now that you've completed your cast on, go ahead and rotate and turn it to the right side. And you can have a stitch marker to mark that right side. I'm just going to put it on one of these stitches right here, and I can move it up as I need to so it's not at the very bottom here. But we're going to begin our ribbing section, and for all parts, whenever there's a cuff, that is the ribbing that we're going to work right now. Okay, so first row is on the right side. We're going to knit through the back loop. Now normally you're going like this to knit, okay, but we're going to go through this loop here, the back loop. So we're just going to put our needle back there and yarn over just as you normally would and pull that loop on through and then let the old fall off. That's it. Then we're going to put our yarn forward and purl. So we put our needle through that front part of the stitch, yarn over, and push that on through to the back, let it fall off, and we've got our purl stitch. Let's repeat that again. Yarn to the back. Don't forget that step or you're going to have a yarn over and an extra stitch. Go to the back loop, so put the needle through, yarn over, oops, do that again. Yarn through the back, or needle through the back, yarn over, and pull up that stitch. Drop the old one off, yarn forward, purl this stitch, push it back, drop it off, and put the yarn to the back and continue. So you're going to knit through the back loop and purl all the way across. When you have one stitch left, you're going to knit through the back loop. I'll join you there and we will continue on instructions. See you in a moment. Okay, we just got one knit through the back loop at the end of our ribbing, and then turn that over. Okay, so we're on the wrong side. Row 2 is going to be purl through the back loop. So normally when you're knitting through the back loop, you're knitting through this one here, but we need to purl. So we're going to do something a bit different where we rotate it this direction and put our needle in kind of backwards like this. Okay, our yarn's already in the front of this stitch, and so we're just going to yarn over that bottom needle, push it on through, okay, let it fall off. And if you've never done that before, it's a bit of a gymnastic. Make sure that you're not pulling too tight and guide it through the stitch. I'll show you one more time. We're going to knit this next stitch. It's not in the back loop, so put your yarn to the back and knit it as normal. Okay, because that'll look like a purl on the other side. Now we're going to yarn forward. Okay, on this next stitch you have to make sure and yarn forward because we didn't do that on the very first one. Okay, turn it to the back, insert your needle through the back of that loop. Okay, it's kind of a tight spot. Yarn over, put that yarn between, and then use the tip of your needle to kind of guide it and push it against the other needle and pull it on through, and you've made a purl through the back loop. Yarn to the back and knit one. Repeat over and over. Yarn front, purl in the back loop, yarn over, and drop it off, and knit one. Continue repeating until the end to get your ribbing for row 2. Pause your video and I'll see you then. Alright, I'm on my last stitch. I'm going to put the yarn in the front and purl in the back loop and finish that ribbing out. Turn it over and we're back to our right side. Now you can see that it's twisted in the front here, and then on the wrong side it doesn't look like the ribbing is twisted. So the part with the twisted ribbing is definitely the right side. If you need to, now that you have more room, you can go ahead and put that marker for the right side up a stitch so you can really see that this is the correct one. Okay. And then let's move on That is row 1 and 2 of your ribbing. You're going to repeat that until you have 2 inches or 5 centimeters, and you're going to end on a second row. So you're going to end just as we did after you complete a second row. That's what that means. Now on mine, the way my gauge went, I only needed to make do this 4 times, do the 2-row repeat 4 times. So I had a total of 8 rows. So continue working on that. When you get to 2 inches, I'll meet you back to work on the textured pattern. See you in a moment. A little bit of troubleshooting. If you have accidentally made a purl through the back loop and you meant to knit, or vice versa, maybe you got your the stitches all backwards and reversed, then this is how you would undo the stitch. You just put your yarn up and grab that stitch and let it fall off, okay? And then you can see that the stitch is twisted, okay? So you can actually pick it up with the other needle, twist it around, and you want to make sure that the right leg of the stitch, if you look at it this way, this right leg is nice and smooth. There's no twisting, okay? So it still looks like this horseshoe around here. And then you would just make sure that your yarn is back, make your knit stitch, and then bring your yarn forward and make your purl through the back loop. The same thing if you had accidentally knit through the back loop and you meant to knit, and that's already done. You're just going to put your needle in through that loop kind of towards the back where it's set up. Let it go. And then you can look at that stitch and kind of pull on it and see if you set it up correctly. If it's twisted over this other way, you're going to want to kind of look at it and then kind of move your needles around and get it set back up in the correct position. Once you've made your ribbing, you're going to move to the texture pattern as follows. We're going to knit the first row, and then row 2 is a knit 1 below, purl 1, and then you repeat between knit 1 below and purl 1, the last stitch being knit 1. So the 2 end stitches are both just a regular knit, and in between is the knit 1 below and purl 1. I'm also going to show you how to undo this work and go backwards and fix it also on the next row if you've accidentally switched it and gone in the wrong order, because I think that's very important in this particular pattern, and you'll understand later when we start reducing stitches and having to stay in pattern with this. So kind of bookmark this spot if you need to come back to it. The rest of the row repeats on the right side again with knit, and then on the reverse, on the wrong side, it's a purl, so that on the right side it's really a stockinette look except for that one row. Okay, so let's do that now. Row 1, we're just going to knit across, so go ahead and knit all stitches, pause your video, complete that, and I'll meet you back at the next row for row 2. See you soon. Row 2, we're on the wrong side and we're going to knit 1, just as we discussed before. It's just on the first and last stitches, and now we're going to knit 1 below. So you're going to come to this first purl bump here and just put your needle right underneath the purl bump to where it comes out below. Basically, you're going to have 2 stitches on top of this needle, yarn over and knit just as you would do a normal knit stitch, and let both of them fall off. It's okay. You're going to end up having 2 bumps on the right side of your work. Then we're going to yarn forward and we're going to purl. Okay, so we're going to knit 1 below, put your yarn in the back again, go underneath that purl stitch, so that stitch below, and knit, pull through, let both drop off, and yarn to the front and purl. And you're just going to repeat the knit 1 below and the purl stitch across until your very last stitch, and you're going to knit that one. All right, let's do a little bit of troubleshooting here. If I need to undo these, let's go back. I'm just going to put my opposite needle in that stitch here, let it come back over. That was where we purled, and then this is the knit 1 below, and you'll see what happens when we do that same thing and go here. You'll see 2 stitches on the loop, or 2 loops on the needle. There we go. So I've got this really long one that's behind the stitch here, okay? Or yeah, it looks like the second loop. Now I want to put my needle into the first loop and go under and scoop up. Okay, we're going to put our needle in and we're going to put it on top of that second loop and scoop it and pull it through like this. Okay, and then we'll slide it back onto our other needle. Just twist that needle and put it through the loop, and we've set that back up, and you can see that purl bump once again. Okay, let's undo another knit stitch, and we'll do another one of these, knit one below. We'll set it back up again. So we're going to go into this stitch, undo it. Okay, you have this long strand here, and then the short one. Make sure the long strand is behind the short one. Go into the short one. Okay, scoop up and pull through that longer loop, and then put it back onto your correct needle so that the stitch can be worked. All right, go ahead and follow that stitch pattern. And the reason why you need to know how to do that is later on we will be increasing and decreasing stitches, and you may find when you look back at the right side of your work that you've lined up your stitches wrong, because the pattern will change slightly. You might have to start a row purling a couple of beginning stitches and then getting back into that stitch pattern to get the knit one below to line up with all the rest of the knitting. Okay, it'll make much more sense later on, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So all right, continue on with your second row and meet me back up for row 3. See you soon. On the last 2 stitches of row 2, we're going to knit one below, and then the very last stitch is knit. So you won't be purling it like that sequence there. Okay, so we're going to turn this over and work a row 3, which is just like row 1, simply knit across all stitches. Pause your video and I'll meet you for row 4. See you soon. Okay, so we're on row 4 and we're just purling all stitches. Just go ahead and purl across. Pause your video and I'll meet you back up and we'll talk about the remainder of this pattern. See you in a moment. So you've just completed your ribbing and one of the texture patterns, and I want to show you how you can tell which is the first row of this textured stitch pattern. You can see where you have the double purl bumps here, and then you have a stitch right above. So if we count backwards from the row or the column to the right of that or next to it, we've got 1, that's that row there, that was row 4, and then we have row 3, and then this is row 2, and this is row 1. So you can see where that is. Later on in some of the pattern, it's easy to know what row you're on by counting where row 1 starts, because there are some descriptions for increases and decreases on certain rows, and so it's nice to be able to mark this so you can count where the 1 begins. So you don't have to do every one of them, but I'm just marking this one so you can see it now. So you're going to continue in pattern until your work from the very beginning measures 19 inches and end on a wrong side row. Go ahead and continue working your inches and pause your video, meet me back up for the next step. See you soon. We have continued in our pattern until from the very beginning of the ribbing measures 19 inches from here all the way to here, and I just completed a row number 4, which is a purl row, and so I finished ended on a wrong side row, ready to start a right side row. So we're going to continue in the pattern and cast off the first 4 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows, and these are the stitches that you end up with. 55 for the small, 59 for the medium, 65 for the large, 71 for extra large, 83 for 2 or 3X, and 89 for the 4 or 5X. All right, let's go ahead and do that so you know how to bind off. Okay, so we're going to begin by binding off and knitting these first 2 stitches. So knit 1 and knit 2, and then lift up and over this first stitch, going up and over the second, and then you count that as 1 bind off. Okay, so don't count how many you're knitting here. We want to just count every time we have a bind off. So that's 1, work the next one, lift up and over, that's 2, work the next one, lift up and over, that's 3, and the next one, up and over, that's 4. And you can count these little bumps that are coming out here, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, continue working this row and knitting across all the way until the very last stitch, and complete that one with the knit as well. Continue and pause your video now, and I'll meet you back up at the end. See you soon. Okay, we want to bind off 4 more stitches. So we're going to go ahead and just bind these off to where it looks like a knit stitch in the back. So I'm going to do a purl bind off here. So I want these to look identical on the other side. So we're just going to purl this first stitch and then purl the next stitch. And the same thing as before, we're going to lift the back stitch over the front and bind off 1 and purl the next stitch and lift up and over, and that's 2. Purl the next stitch and lift up over, that's 3, and purl the next and lift up over, whoops, there we go, and that's 4. Okay, and now we want to continue in our pattern, and you can also stop here for a moment and double check your numbers. Go ahead and count all the live stitches on your needles here, so you're not counting these. The live stitches are all the ones that are still hanging on to your cable. So go ahead and confirm your numbers that are left on that pattern and continue working in this pattern. I want to make sure first that I'm starting this knit one below correct. So we don't need a knit one because we've already started this pattern in. We want to look on the other side here and see that our very next stitch lines up with a knit one below. You see these double bars here. So, oh, actually I'm not looking at this right. So I already have this stitch here that I've worked. Yes, that's it. Okay, so I have this stitch here that belongs with this column. So yes, this next one is going to go with the knit one below. So here I go. So I need to make sure I move my yarn to the back, and we're going to knit one below and then go into purling. So move that yarn to the back again, or the front again, and purl, knit one below, and continue just as you did before. Okay. Okay, so we're going to continue on until the very last stitch, and go ahead and make that a knit one as well, so that you are ending just as you would normally for the end here, because we need to make sure that this stitch is a knit one so that it behaves just as these did, because we are going to be sewing this in to make our armhole. All right, continue on, and I'll meet you back for the next step. Okay, so we've double checked that we have the right stitch count, and we're going to continue in the same pattern until our work measures these different dimensions here for our sizes. So for the smallest size, you're going to knit until you have 8 inches, 9 inches for the medium, 9.5 for the large, 10 for both the extra large and 2X, 3X, and 10.5 for the 4 or 5X. Okay, and of course you can get the metric numbers on the page as well. You're going to end in a wrong side row just as we've been doing, and we'll be ready to begin the next section when you get back on a right side row. So go ahead and work that, pause your video, and meet me back for the next step up here for shaping the shoulders. See you soon. Okay, so we've worked our desired length for whatever size you've got. Of course, I've got small. I had about 12 of these little bumps here that represent each of the 4 rows, and ended on my wrong side row. So now you're going to do what you did before, where you're casting off a certain number of stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows, and then you're going to do it 2 more times. So it's going to go inward here several stitches. It's going to be longer, and then the other side will get done, and then you come back on this side and you're going to do a series of more stitches, and then on the other side, and then you will leave these stitches here in the middle. So let me show you that on the pattern. So it's right here, top of this second column, shape shoulders, keep continuing of pattern, cast off this number of stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows, and then cast off these number of stitches. It does change slightly for a couple of the sizes at the beginning of the next 2 rows, and then the remaining stitches, and it shows you the number here, is put on a stitch holder. So these are the numbers for the first part of the cast off. So it's 7 for small, 8 medium, 9 large, 10 XL, 13 for the 2 or 3X, and 15 for the 4 or 5X. And that's the first stitches on the next 2 rows. And then the third and fourth rows, so the next 2 after that, it's 7 again, 8 again for medium, 9 again for the large. The extra large changes to 11 stitches, and the 2X, 3XL is 14 stitches, so that changes, and then 15 is the same again. And then you will have this number of remaining stitches. So the smaller sizes, small and medium, are 27 stitches that are left, and then 29 stitches for the rest of the sizes. So let's show you a stitch holder. So you can transfer and put things onto a stitch holder here, but because I have an interchangeable needle, I'm going to show you what I do. I'm jumping to the end here, and I have finished my stair step. So you finish that out, and of course complete this row. And just so you know, for later, you're going to need to sew. This is actually the right shoulder seam here. So if this is the left-handed video, I may show it on the other side. Just remember that the side you end up on, you can go ahead and leave this long for sewing a seam. And go ahead and pull out about 3 times the length or width of this shoulder here. I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and just do one more just for good measure and cut this. And then that way I've got something to sew just this shoulder part with. And then now we want to go ahead and put the remaining stitches on our stitch holder. It's either going to be 27 or 29. And then I'm going to use my key here for my interchangeable needles. Oh, actually I've already loosened that up. So we're going to take that off. If you don't know how to use a key, this is the key here. You just insert it through this hole, use that to hold on to, unscrew your needle, and put on the holder, and then repeat on the next needle. You can also use a scrap piece of yarn as well. So we're going to take this panel and set it aside, and this will be used for adding in the collar later on. So stay tuned for part 2 coming up for making the front, and this will be used next time when we get all the way to part 4, where we add the front and the back and start the sleeves and add on the collar. All right, we'll see you soon. Happy knitting.
Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.